I saw a video where a woman was answering the question, what would you do if you were the last woman on Earth? And this is kind of a response to her answer of it. Cremate me, deliver me to safety, so that when it's spent, maybe my corpse will be my own. Scatter ashes, leave no marker where you planted, so the hordes will be disbanded as they search on a treasure map of my headstone. Leave me to the beasts and bears, I'd rather that the feast was theirs. They can't reserve neighboring plots or request to be buried on top. Leave me for a day or two to make sure that I turn blue. For the first time since I was 10, I'm undesirable again.
There must be some boundary that man will leave uncrossed, a taboo so extreme that none dares to fantasize or act upon it. If there is one, it has yet to be found. Everything can and will be sexualized. This knowledge cannot prevent you from being sexualized, but knowing of these sexual predilections can allow you the foresight to disengage when someone intends to use you for that purpose, and to call them out for their wrongdoing. Today, I want to discuss a kink that many people are at least vaguely aware of, which crosses one boundary that we can only theoretically be offended by: necrophilia. Necrophilia refers to the sexual attraction to corpses. This topic has been explored greatly in fiction, but perhaps the most well-known example can be found in Chandler Morrison's Dead Inside, which follows a necrophiliac hospital night shift guard and his romance with a maternity doctor that eats dead fetuses. It's an entry in the splatterpunk genre of horror whose aim is to gross out readers with an intense description of gore and violence. The book very much succeeds in doing so and is often lauded as one of the most suggested horror books on Reddit forums. Necrophilia, however, does not only exist in the realm of imagination.
Yeah, I don't get it. You're talking about Strykor, but he's not here.
The legitimate truth is because of necrophilia. Unfortunately, in history, men are known to do bad things to their bodies because it's easier to do it without consent. And there was a less likely chance for women to do it. And this is based off a lot of things. One of those things being that when they had to send the body back for a second autopsy, they found the mortician left something behind. Men thought it was easier to get away with because they were going into the ground anyway. Thankfully, protocols have been strengthened and DNA testing has become more profound. You can't get away with it on the autopsy table, you can't get away with it with the living. It's illegal regardless, strictly because men display that they can't control themselves when they see a lifeless female body. If you don't believe me, look it up.
This is a paraphilia which has existed and been recorded as far back as ancient Egypt, wherein men of rank would withhold sending the bodies of their wives and female relatives to the embalmers right away, instead waiting a few days for the bodies to decompose to prevent violation. It has been recorded in many cultures, including ancient China, where Murongxi, a emperor of China, mourned Empress Fu so much that after having sex with her corpse, he ordered that a tomb be built for her. A more well-known necrophiliac is Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed 17 young men between 1978 and 1991, and dismembered and cannibalized their bodies, as well as attempted to create a submissive zombie sex slave. Other prominent modern necrophiliacs include Dennis Nilsen, who between 1978 and 1983 is known to have killed a minimum of 12 men and boys, and to have attempted to kill 7 others. Nilsen admitted to engaging in masturbation as he viewed the nude bodies of several of his victims, and to have engaged in sexual acts with 6 of his victims' bodies, but was adamant that he had never perpetrated penetration on any of his victims. David Fuller is perhaps one of the most recent cases, as in 2021 he was convicted of the murders of Wendy Nell, 25, and Carolyn Pierce, 20, whom he strangled and sexually assaulted after breaking into their homes, months apart in 1987, as well as having abused the bodies of more than 100 female corpses at his job. Although little is known about what leads to or causes necrophilia, a 1989 study, Sexual Attraction to Corpses, a Psychiatric Review of Necrophilia by Rosman and Resnick, classified true necrophilia into 3 types: necrophilic homicide, regular necrophilia, and necrophilic fantasy. Necrophilic homicide refers to murder to obtain a corpse for sexual purposes. Regular necrophilia refers to the use of already dead bodies for sexual purposes, while necrophilic fantasy refers to fantasizing about dead bodies without acting it out. The study found that neither psychosis, mental retardation, nor sadism appears to be inherent in necrophilia. The most common motive for necrophilia is possession of an unresisting and unrejecting partner. Necrophiles often choose occupations that put them in contact with corpses. Some necrophiles who had occupational access to corpses committed homicide nevertheless. Unsurprisingly, 92% of necrophiliacs were men, and all necrophilic homicides were committed by men.
Has anyone performed necrophilia at a funeral home that I worked at or a funeral home that I know of? Well, as a matter of fact, I do know. My very first job in this industry was working for a removal company in Sacramento, California, and we did removals for Sacramento Memorial Lawn. At the time when I worked there was an apprentice embalmer named Karen Greenlee. You can Google her and you can Google this story. She got famous by kidnapping bodies and taking them out in the hearse and having sex with them. She actually did get caught. She was not charged with necrophilia because at the time in California, it was not a crime to do so, but she was charged with various other crimes related to the incidents, and she was tried and convicted. You can Google more information on this, on her name, Karen Greenlee.
64% of those cases had a history of prior sadistic acts. Interestingly, both Dahmer and Nilsen noted a desire to prevent their partners from leaving as a motive for killing them. Rosman and Resnick's study also hypothesized that necrophilia is developed due to a process in which 1. The necrophilic develops poor self-esteem, perhaps due in part to a significant loss, as in they are very fearful of rejection by others and they desire a sexual partner who is incapable of rejecting them, and B. They are fearful of the dead and transform their fear, utilizing reaction formation into a desire, followed by developing an exciting fantasy of sex with a corpse, sometimes after exposure to a corpse. It's important to note that necrophilia has been observed in the animal kingdom, either because death interrupted a mating dance or because a dead female looked close to a pliant or willing mate. In other words, dead partners are interchangeable with submissive partners. What does that mean in a culture where submission, not enthusiasm, is encouraged in females? What does that mean for a culture where kinks are universally permitted as personal expression, and any critical analysis of whether they might harm others is treated as an act of bigotry? Just as with any harmful sexual practice, indulging in it, in any form, including the more common and accepted somnophilia, or desire to have sex with a sleeping person, leads to the need to escalate, even when actually acting it out proves that fantasy to never have been what they believed it to be. While the known occurrences of necrophilia are low, it's important to note that the victims can't speak, that few would look for evidence, and that there isn't a common enough fear of this for safeguards to be in place. Many mortuaries only hire women for this reason, who are statistically far less likely to commit this type of crime. Another way to mitigate the risk is to request that only women deal with your body after death. It is horrible to have to be aware of this type of crime, that it is a crime committed that violates bodily autonomy even after death, which illustrates that there is yet to be a violation left unconsummated. Perhaps the only upside is that it is a rather rare occurrence, or at least homicidal necrophilia is. Either way, it's important to be able to note that this is a thing that does occur, so that we can make decisions about after-death care in order to at least mitigate the risk of it occurring to our bodies. This, dear viewers, is where we part. This is the first, and I suppose, a trend of analysis or critical discussions about kink. I think the next one I really want to do is somnophilia, because it's pretty related in that both necrophilia and somnophilia want an unresisting partner, and both of them kind of reflect the rape culture that we have, wherein women are expected to be submissive and pliant, where the person who quote-unquote receives is only supposed to be submissive and rarely ever expected to be excited. Hopefully this doesn't get demonetized. If it does, then I will probably put the full thing on my Patreon so that you can see it without any edits. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or any suggestions, leave them down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!